966.
Joining us now on the 966, Dr. Saad Alshahrani. Dr. Saad is Deputy Minister for Economic Affairs and Investment Studies at the Ministry of Investment, board member at King Abdullah City for Atomic and Renewable Energy, and has served with the Central Bank, IMF. Dr. Saad, thank you so much for joining us on the 966.
Thank you very much, and I'm really happy to have you with me in this discussion and have me also in this podcast.
Yeah, we're delighted you could join us on the 966. And actually, I'd like to add a few items to Lucian's introduction regarding your resume, because it's really impressive. And he mentioned, you're on the board of directors with K-Care. You're also a fellow professor of economics at Princess Nourah, bint Abdulrahman University, the largest university for females in the world. But you've been at key spots throughout. You were at the Ministry of Finance for 5 years, Islamic Development Bank 4 years, economist at IMF, 8 years at SAMA. And also, during key periods, you were in important positions at the Saudi Geological Survey, which is interesting because that survey that they have done is really key for the mineral industry. And you were with also the Council of Economic and Development Affairs, which is sort of the fundamentally important governing body for economic changes. But I want to compliment you, Dr. Saad, because on your resume, which is extraordinary, you included your first job out of college, I think, when you were assistant financial accountant at the food supermarket. And I love it when people do this. And I think I may show this to my two younger kids about you've got to start somewhere. If you want to achieve great things, you have to start somewhere. So I want to thank you for including your very first job out of college.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Can we talk about the Saudi economy a little bit? And as you well know, we talk about the economy a lot on the 966, and understandably so. But this year, the IMF projects Saudi Arabia's economy to grow 7.6% in 2022. Right. So this is the highest rate for any country in the world. And this is not a sort of, quote, rising tide lifts all boats situation, because the IMF has downgraded its global growth forecast 3 times since January. Saudi Arabia is sort of going against a global downward economic trend. Clearly, energy prices have been a boon to major oil exporters, but is this the only reason for Saudi Arabia's booming economy, or are there other factors that you see that are contributing to this really outstanding growth?
Right. Well, let me give you the short story. I think we have a great economy that exists in the past. However, we were controlled by oil prices. Oil prices used to manage and plan our projects, our investment, our human capital, etc. Then 2016, the Crown Prince came with this vision, the 2030 vision, that set up everything with good guidelines, directions to make sure we are not dependent on oil anymore. We have to diversify our economy. We have to make the local content at its best, and at the same time to make sure our economy is more open now for investment and competitive comparing to the other countries and regions. Looking at Saudi Arabia, it's the largest economy in the Middle East. And given its location and how it's connect the world, and everything is about a couple hours far away from any port in Saudi Arabia, with the infrastructure that we have and the transportation, roads, etc., ports, I think it's time for the giant who was sleeping to wake up now and use its muscles, and at the same time make sure to use the gaps and utilize them that we did not use them in the past. So the 2030 vision came with ambitious targets, with many programs, about 13 programs, and each program has a couple initiatives, and they tackle some not only economic reforms but structural reforms. The government performance, the laws, the justice, the way how we handle business, the way how we communicate, the media, etc. And more importantly is investing in people and human capital. So all these together came as a package with the Crown Prince vision. And we started implementing in 2016, 7 years ago, these initiatives and plans. And what's happening today as a result it's not random or happened as a coincidence. It's because of what has been done the last 6 years or 7 years of reforms and change in the economy to make it stronger, the financial position better, and at the same time make everything available for investors, for the government even to share with friends who would like to invest in Saudi Arabia. So when it was 2020, when COVID hit every economy in the world, we were only one or maybe one of few countries that grew in FDI positively, while the rest of the world declined by 35%. So we grew by about 18 or 19% in 2020. We get more investors coming to the country, and at the same time, we witnessed more new promising sectors that did not exist in the past, including tourism, entertainment, sports, ICT. All these sectors started to be the hot topic in Saudi Arabia the last 2 years. Maybe you have heard Saudi Arabia was ranked the second globally out of the countries that recovered very well from COVID and handled the healthcare very well in 2020 and 2021. We had a lockdown early enough. We managed to take care of people's health. The king decided to have a free health care to everyone who lives in Saudi Arabia, either Saudi or non-Saudi. We made sure we are the first to invest in these vaccines, to make sure also to compensate the medium and small enterprises who suffered from COVID and its impact. So I think this package came up to build a stronger economy. We rely more on the non-oil GDP, which is the driver of the economy today, and it's growing the best among, as you said, global countries. And as the IMF said today, they just published an article 30 minutes ago, and they think the article for Saudi Arabia will be published as we speak now by the IMF, and they rank Saudi Arabia as the fastest growing economy in the world in 2022.
I saw you posted that article on LinkedIn, and we do a daily newsletter called the Sustig Review, and that's already loaded in because that's a really good article that you referenced in that IMF. We've talked a lot about the 966 about how well Saudi Arabia managed the COVID challenge, and I think you're referencing maybe the Bloomberg did a global ranking where Saudi Arabia came in second, and they. You're exactly right. Right. The kingdom, had significant experience with these kinds of challenges and moved quickly, relied on the science, and it's interesting that you point out because they clearly came out of the COVID period. Saudi Arabia came out more quickly recovered and stronger than a lot of other countries. Can we talk about the Crown Prince? You referenced the Crown Prince in introducing Vision 2030 in 2016. He recently introduced the National Investment Strategy, and this was in October 2021. And at that, when he discussed the National Investment Strategy and first launched it, he said, "quote The National Investment Strategy is all about empowering investors, offering investment opportunities, providing financial solutions, and enhancing competitiveness," unquote. And as you know well, Dr. Saad, the NIS, the National Investment Strategy, has really ambitious goals. It's seeking to reach $3.3 trillion in accumulated investments by 2030. By design, the Ministry of Investment is right at the heart of the National Investment Strategy. And we're about 10 months away from October when the Crown Prince announced the NIS. Can you discuss how you see it progressing and the role MISA is playing within that national investment strategy?
Right. So to continue the story that I just told you for the first question, after the Crown Prince introduced the 2030 vision, some programs gradually start kicking off to build the infrastructure of the economy to make sure the business environment in Saudi Arabia is better than ever, and at the same time doing business is easier than ever before. So we used to have what it's called SAGIA, which is the Saudi Authority for Investment Promotion. And it was only focusing on promoting the investment globally for foreign investors, not even for the domestic investment. And the Crown Prince decided to establish or decide to make an order to establish the Ministry of Investment in 2020.
Right.
And that's when COVID hit us. So it was not the best year for an investment to grow in Saudi Arabia, although we did, I would say, okay. In 2020, as I said, we grew about 18 to 19% in that year. However, the Crown Prince announced the National Investment Strategy, and it was full of all what we had missed in the past. We have to empower the investment in Saudi Arabia and make all the investors are close and reached all opportunities in Saudi Arabia. So as you know, the country is huge. It's full of opportunities, either in energy, non-energy. We have each region with specifications and different opportunities. We have different sectors. So the NIS came with a couple pillars. One of them is to make incentives and financing reachable to any investor, either local or international. And make sure there are some incentives that are competitive with other countries, including exemptions of tax, lands, bridging loans, different ways of incentives. And at the same time, we have to provide all opportunities from supply side. So as a country, we supply opportunities, but also we welcome any demand. So if you as a friend coming from the US or Europe or anywhere in the world, and you have an idea to invest in Saudi Arabia, we still welcome this idea. And actually we provide any incentive and empowerment that needed to make this project successful. So we feel it's not our only success, it's a win-win case. So we welcome anyone who comes to the country. But also the NIS came with 40 initiatives. These initiatives, one of them is, for example, making the businesses easy in Saudi Arabia, trying to make sure there is no restrictions when it comes to someone coming to the country, and providing all the incentives, and building a great exporting zones like the economic special zones. So we are working on these initiatives to make sure we have a very competitive environment in the country. But at the same time, if you remember also, Richard, in October last year, we announced the global companies to move to Saudi Arabia, and the headquarters need to move. And during the FII, we had about 44 big companies, giant companies, move to Riyadh and Saudi Arabia, and we had more this year. So the number is growing. And there is no surprise, because every investor is thirsty for investment, and the country is providing the best meal when it comes to investment. So we have witnessed a great opportunities. The number of licenses, number of deals increased and tripled, and even doubled in some quarters more than ever before. This all said, this has been said, we have what it called Invest Saudi. And Invest Saudi is a platform that unify all opportunities in Saudi Arabia and market them and promote them globally and locally. So we have been successful to build the phase 2 of this platform and make sure all the opportunities, content, numbers, statistics, reports available in this platform, to make sure that there is only one-stop shop for any investor to come to Saudi Arabia, or even local investors, and find it clearly. Looking at the numbers in 2021 and the first, I would say, one or second quarter of 2022, we have exceeded our targets when it comes to FDI. So we have an annual target from 2021 until 2030. And in 2021, we exceeded our FDI target by 170%. So that tells you there is a seriousness and commitment and achievement. The same thing in Q1 2022, we had about 10% growth in the first quarter of FDI, and we expect the numbers of second quarter coming very soon in the next. So we have witnessed a great achievements, but you know what? We have a long way to do, and we are still thirsty for more and more.
It's interesting you mentioned the 4 pillars of that NIS strategy. That first pillar is investment opportunities, which again comes back to the Ministry of Investment and all the things you're doing. And the IMF, and by the way, I really want to compliment you on the MISA's quarterly reports. They're outstanding, and they're a tremendous resource for anybody who's interested in doing business, is doing business. And but one of the things they mentioned in this second quarter report was that IMF had commended the kingdom for its, quote, improved ease of doing business with one-stop shop to register a business taking only 3 minutes, unquote. I know this is an important goal for MISA. And the regional headquarters program also is exceptionally important. As you say, you referred earlier to a sleeping giant, Saudi Arabia, a sleeping giant, and it's waking up. And I think that regional headquarters program reflects this, companies going, okay, if we're going to be doing business in Saudi Arabia, we need to be in Saudi Arabia, especially if we're doing business for the government. And I hope that program's going along well. You said it was going along nicely. Are there other steps that you're taking with, for example, that report, the recent report, we commented that there are actual QR codes at the end of that report where you can get into key Ministry of Investment portals on how to do business, the legal aspects, how you can get financial and tax support, these sorts of subsidies. It's really a useful document, making things much easier. Is there something, can you discuss steps, you've taken these steps, are there other planned improvements? For example, I'm reading a little bit about MIZA, M-I-Z-A. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
So what you said is totally correct, and I thank you for mentioning what you have seen in the report. In that report, we focus on a couple promising sectors every quarter. So in Q2, we focused on tourism, and the tourism is one of the booming sectors in Saudi Arabia for the last couple years. And I would tell you one story about the tourism. When COVID happened in 2020, one of the biggest drivers of the growth of the GDP of Saudi Arabia was the tourism, although everything was locked. But I think we prepared everything before COVID, and it was the best investment for domestic people. So people start discovering Abha in south of Saudi Arabia, Asir, maybe you have heard of it. They start discovering some nice areas in the Red Sea, Neom, Al-Ula, different cities. I do want to forget some of them. So the consumption and the demand by locals was very significant and high, and that supported the GDP in 2020. But going to that report, we were thinking about last year with the minister how we improve this report to make sure if any investor comes to Saudi Arabia, doesn't need to go to all these websites and look for GDP, look for employment, look for stats, numbers, regulations. So we have to gather them in one document, but it has to be friendly, a document that you can read and get some videos, get some clips, infographics, etc. So we have a great team that support us in building this. And I have to comment on one thing. Most of my team in my deputyships and at MISA are females. So the females are doing great in Saudi Arabia. They are part of this huge contribution to the GDP. We had a target to reach 30% of females in the workforce by 2030, but we reached 35% last year. So we exceeded our target, and I would say without them we would not be in this situation. So thank you to them, and I'm worried about guys now. They're gonna get mad at me because they
I'm worried about guys too.
But I have to admit the truth. going to MISA, MISA is one of the services that MISA wants to provide to investors, either locally or internationally, where we provide door-to-door services, the journey of the investor from the day he or she thinks about investment until you proceed even in your investment, even later on through this program. It's a program that will help to know everything about the country, support you to get any regulations done, procedures, processes, whatever, and keep you posted with the new opportunities, with the new incentives coming up, with the new sectors, with the new regions that we discover in Saudi Arabia. So it's about to finish in the final stage, and we expect most of people will get benefit of it, and it's optional at the same time, but it does not require a lot of fees, but at the same time it will provide an excellent and golden opportunities to understand more about anything that related to services and business in Saudi Arabia.
It looks fascinating, and it's available for both domestic and international investors, and it looks financial and tax advisory, business setup services, logistics, site rental services. I mean, in terms of ease of doing business, it seems like a really promising addition for anybody that's interested. Can we return briefly to tourism? Because I agree with you, and we've commented on this show how readable those reports are. They're easily accessed. There's a lot of information, but it's nicely formatted and arranged. And in the first quarter, the sort of sectoral focus was on real estate. This last quarter was on tourism. And as with so many things with Saudi Arabia, when something is announced, it seems so ambitious. The numbers are so big. But then as the project begins and the implementation gets underway, you see that it might be possible. And I say that specifically with that 100 million, goal, 100 million visitors goal by 2030. You hit 62 million last year. And as you say, a lot of that was domestic tourism, which is important. But increasingly, that 100 million seems to be possible by 2030. But tourism is in itself, and I say tourism and hospitality is what I call sort of a linchpin industry, because it creates so much employment. It's also now the government is improving its aviation services, and obviously visas are more easily acquired now. Can you tell us talk a little bit more about tourism, especially because it's so important? That the Red Sea development is starting to come online and that sort of thing. And obviously Al Ula is an amazing place. Tourism, as you mentioned, is a really key industry.
Right. So one of the things that we are proud of is we get a lot of calls today and requests from different countries. They want to visit Saudi Arabia and they want to see what they have seen in YouTube or the picture that they've seen in some social media channels, etc. So there are some sites and locations in the country that nobody discovered in the past. And the Crown Prince vision about tourism is to make this at the best quality and make it available for everyone, local or international, and make it very easy to reach to that area. So first we have to build the infrastructure and make sure the roads, ports, aircrafts are at its best. And that's already exists even before we thought about tourism. However, the services that you need in these locations have to be at its best level. So if you look at Al Ula, the hotels that we have right now are a 5-star global international hotels with high quality. If you look at Neom, you look at the Red Sea, you see these resorts that they were built lately. At Dir'iyah also, we have it as one of the developments and projects that exist in Saudi Arabia. So we have a lot of options. And if you want the heat, there are places for the heat. If you want very cold, you can go to south or north. I grew up in south of Saudi Arabia, where it goes below zero in the winter, and the highest in the summer was about 20 degrees Celsius. So it's a great place in the south, and it's green mountains. But
Right.
if you like desert and you like to ride camels, if you like to do car racing, you want to do whatever, then you can go to Riyadh. You can go to the north of Saudi Arabia. So we have different regions and different countries in one country with different specifications. So it's a great opportunity, and that's what I meant when I said we have opportunities, and there was a gap in the past. We did not use and utilize these opportunities, and it was about time to make the infrastructure with a good quality and make them available and ready for everyone. So we welcome everyone today, and we used part of this blessing that we have when we get countries to visit us to make them go and visit these sites. So in 2022, for example, we had about 20 or 25 forums, investment forums in Saudi Arabia. But in aligned with these forums, we have the delegations, either ministers or prime ministers or even presidents, to go and visit these historical places, visit the cultural places, visit tourism in different areas. And they found it, the first thing you see in their faces is like, wow, what is this? And they start thinking about investing in these places. So we have colleagues from different countries who start saying, I want to invest in Al-Ula, I want to invest in Red Sea. And so it's a great opportunity to show the people and make everything ready for them and available to win case.
Let's talk about investments. And I agree with you that Saudi Arabia is extraordinary. I bet you're wishing you could be in Saudi now, and since you're in Riyadh in August.
I know. My family is enjoying Suda now, but not me. But
you mentioned earlier, one of the interesting things about Vision 2030 is that the metrics that these are benchmarks that every agency, every authority, every ministry is expected to hit. And I know MISA takes theirs very seriously. And one of the interesting things about this quarterly report, and we return to it again because again we thought it was outstanding, is it lists key deals. And you had right. In that second quarter, 49 closed deals, $925 million in expected investments, close to 2,000 jobs to be created. Important benchmarks. I really liked also that it went through and it describe deals in different key sectors.
Right.
So in terms of, are you happy with the deal flow? I know it's been positive, but you seem to be very optimistic that people are coming. The interest level is very high in terms of actually, sealing and closing deals.
Right. Well, if you want the truth, I'm not really happy because I want more. So I want more deals coming. However, I think we are achieving a good level of deals so far. And better than what happened the last decade. So when the NIS started, we had to do some analysis and see what are the priority sectors and look at these sectors and focus on them because we knew they would be the driver of the economy, job creation, diversification, local content, and make the economy more sustainable over the medium and long terms. So tourism is one of them. ICT, technology with different elements, renewable energy, entertainment, real estate, logistics, and transportation. So these are key sectors that we focused on, and they will have the more focus from incentives as well. So we were successful so far, and I think they are the strength now of the country. I know there are some traditional sectors that still drive the economy going forward. However, we are focusing on the sector that we had gap in, and we have to fill it. And the gap is huge. And that's why we have a huge ambitious targets, because we know every real and dollar will be spent in these sectors will have a higher and higher multiplier, either for the economy or the investment. So, yes, this is the sector that we focus on. However, we still welcome any ideas and any demanded opportunities in different sectors.
I asked you, and this may be you can decline to comment on this, but you gave us a really good outline and description of MIZA, M-I-Z-A, also recently announced as something that a Saudi Investment Promotion Authority.
Right.
And this, I guess, this is also another specific agency to help enable integration and cooperation between entities. And I guess it's linked with Invest Saudi. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. As I mentioned maybe earlier, the Saudi economy is blessed with different sectors that has rich of opportunities and investment ideas. So manufacturing, industrial sectors, looking at ICT, tourism, real estate, and each sector is led by a ministry today. And you have to unify all these ideas and opportunities through one platform. So the idea is to have a Saudi IPA that will unify and coordinate all these efforts and make sure they come through one channel and one single source of truth, as if we can say, making sure it's easier for Saad, Steve, Ahmed, whoever, globally or locally, to look at one place and find the opportunity ready, look at the content of the opportunity, what incentives are provided, and delegate the right investor to the right entity. So the new Saudi IPA is going to be handling the coordination and unifying all the efforts between the countries and between the entities, and at the same time promote for the Saudi investment opportunities. At the same time, it will be in charge of the unified platform, which is Invest Saudi, and it will make sure to have it advanced and improved over the medium term and long term as well. Third point is about coordinating any investment promotion plans by other entities. So if you have a plan for education, for healthcare, for whatever real estate, we can support in building the plan and coordinate it with the relevant entity and make sure it's marketable and ready to be ready for the market and for the investor. But also at the same time is building a better outreach. So in our NIS, one of the initiatives is to build about 10 or 11 international offices for MISA. So the Saudi IPA will be in charge of these offices and reach out to key countries, including the US, China, Asia, Europe, Africa, all these countries. And these offices will be active to promote from these sites. And that's the idea of the IPA. But at the same time, the Saudi IPA will be even in charge of more reports and analysis, studies, statistics that we have to build and provide it to investors. So this is a short story of the mandate that was assigned for the Saudi IPA, and we are working day and night to make sure we have it ready very soon.
That sounds like a wonderful initiative and very promising, and it'll be interesting to see how it develops. And it speaks to Saudi Arabia does have a really intriguing, fascinating, attractive story to tell. And I feel like Saudi Arabia is telling it better. And MISA obviously is clearly invested in making sure that the accurate story is out there and that the real opportunities are told. Lucian, did you want to add anything?
I would like to finish actually, if we could, with.
I just want to add one thing before the story, if you allow me. I think if there is one bad thing that we did in the past is we did not tell our story. So yes. I think it's about time now to build these platforms and channels to tell who the facts about Saudi Arabia, the fact about the achievements, the ambitious, but about the commitment and seriousness to achieve and to be part of this strong global economy.
If I might add to that, one of the interesting things about the tourism sector, but also a lot of other things, is they're finding some extraordinarily important archaeological sites in Saudi Arabia, and on top of that, a lot of Vision 2030 is about culture, and you see an emphasis on National Day and Founding Day and Saudi Arabia's history, and we talk a lot about the 966 are the ongoing festivals, camel festivals, dates, coffee, falcons. It's a pride. There's a great pride in the culture, and there's a great pride in the history, and you see that coming forward now. Ever has in the past, speaking again to your reference to the story.
Right.
So, and that's a great transition, because my question is actually about your story, Dr. Saad. You were a professor at Washington State University. You have a PhD and 2 master's degrees from Washington State University, Wazoo, the Cougars. That's a lot of time you spent in the United States. Could you tell us a little bit about it? And a little bit about how you chose Washington State University?
Yeah, well, my parents are teachers, and they grew up among low-income family. And my dad, I'm the oldest, and my dad always say that you have to be a PhD one day when I was little. So he was putting this in my mind, and I was like, you know what, I will do whatever. So I was a young teenager, and I was, not obeying a lot of what he said. But he was guiding me a lot, and if there is a thank I want to give, I would give it to my parents, because they were the reason behind where I am today. However, I think I'm an example of what the country can provide today. We have a country of opportunities, and everyone has a fair opportunity today. I was growing in a small village in the south of Saudi Arabia. In a small ranch with my family. I used to walk to school a couple kilos, and no cars, nothing. But I had an ambitious plan in my mind to be one day in working in one of the best international financial institutions. I love math a lot. I'm a number guy. I like to work with equations, and that's why I specialized my undergraduate in mathematics. And when I graduated, I was looking for any opportunity to go to the United States, because I know the education over there is the best in my personal views. And I want to learn more about the culture there, people. I used to watch a lot of movies when I was young, and I get, attracted to visit the States. So I found a program at the Central Bank, used to be called the Saudi Arabian Monetary Agency, which is now the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia, which is called Economist Program. So they said you have to shift from math to economics in order to send you to the United States and study over there. And I said, I'm for it. I will go for it. So I joined that program, and they sent me to the US. And also I want to thank the Central Bank, because it was the reason behind my scholarship and success for my educational career. I went to the US, and I was looking for a tough school to challenge myself, but at the same time, a place where I can really witness the snow. I hear about the snow, and coming from Saudi Arabia, I said, I wanna witness the snow. And someone advised me, and they said, go to Pullman, Washington State. It snows 6-7 months a year, and very nice people. It's a farm area. It's like where you grow up, and try it. So I applied. I was accepted in that school. Luckily, the dean or the director of the college was also a math background, so he supported my application. And I want to say thanks to him. His name is Ron Mittelhammer. He used to be one of my advisors through my studies. And I started doing economics. It was not difficult, because it's all about math, calculus, algebra. So it was not hard, but I had to learn the theory by heart. And when I finished my master's in economics, he advised me to do a master's in statistics before I do my PhD, because my PhD in economics will be more advanced of calculus and statistics. So I did another master's in statistics. It was also a good story in my life. Then they accepted me in the PhD program, and they did my dissertation on the Saudi economy diversification and sustainability using some econometrics because of my background in math. I graduated in 2008, and I was picked to be one of the guys to deliver the graduation speech that year during the ceremony. So it was also another successful chapter in my life. But when I was also doing my PhD, I was teaching some undergrad economics, especially econometrics and macroeconomics. And I opened and established Arabic language program in Wazoo. So
nice.
That was one of the stories that I will never forget. I came back to the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia. Then I was picked to build, if you have heard of the GCC Single Currency Union or Council that was established in 2008. So I was one of the founders of that council in 2008, 9, and 10. But at the same time, I like teaching. I love teaching. I think I can communicate with people. I enjoy going deep in discussions and analysis. So I used to teach at the evening at Prince Sultan University for the MBA program. We teach bankers some econometrics, economics, monetary policy, etc. Then I had the chance to apply to the IMF, which is still one of my dreams when I was young. And thanks again to the Central Bank, they supported my application. And I was admitted at the IMF in Washington, and I went back to the US, which is another dream, after I lived in it for about 8-9 years. And Washington was also another successful story because people there are multiculturals from different countries, different regions, a lot of business men over there. And in the IMF, I learned everything by the book, how to communicate with people, how to build a policy, how to do an economic analysis, how to even negotiate in missions and visiting countries, etc. So it was a really successful story, and I think it was a second PhD for me when I worked in the IMF for 5 years. Then I was called by the Minister of Finance, His Excellency Ibrahim Al-Assaf, the former Minister of Finance, and he said, we want to establish a new macroeconomic and fiscal policy department in the Ministry of Finance. So I agreed. I went there in 2016. We built that department, and it grew and it became a deputyship. So I was assigned as a deputy minister for macroeconomic and fiscal policies until end of 2020. Then His Excellency Khalid Al-Faleh called me, and he wanted me to build a new economic analysis and studies deputyship at Ministry of Investment. So I welcome the idea, and who doesn't work with Khalid Al-Faleh? It's a challenging job, but it's a great opportunity. So it's been now almost 2 years in MISA, and I'm acting as another deputy minister for investment promotion. So I supervise 2 deputyships right now. I'm enjoying it. I like what I'm doing right now. I'm in love with it, and I hope I can contribute to the country, to the people who supported me. At least something makes them happy and successful. So this is the short story. I'm sorry, I took too much time.
No, not at all.
That's a wonderful story, and that's a very Saudi story. In terms of a young Saudi in the South or somewhere, and it got an opportunity and made the best of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Dr. Saad Alshahrani. Oh, go ahead.
That being said, looking at this, I think the country, our government is really keen when it comes to human capital investment. So you remember in 2005 when King Abdullah visited the US, and the King Abdullah program for scholarships started. So we had hundreds of thousands of people going to the US and different countries globally. So without that program that continued until today, we would not see this well-educated young Saudis, from males and females, running the vision and the ambitious targets. So that's a credit that we have to give to the government. from that time until now for all the support that they give as an investment and its people.
In terms of U.S. and Saudi Arabia, but also, we're talking about Saudi Arabian educational opportunities. I don't think Lucian and I can point to a more consequential or important program than that scholarship program started in 2005, and it's been adapted. But the results have been nothing but extraordinary.
Yep.
Right.
And the investment's paying off right now. Dr. Saad Alshahrani,
Yes.
Deputy Minister for Economic Affairs and Investment Studies at the Ministry of Investment. Thank you so much for your time today. Dr. Saad, this was a really great discussion. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure of talking to you and to Richard, and it's one of the things that I enjoy. So thank you again, and I appreciate this opportunity.
This was wonderful. Greatly appreciated.